So step it up, that's what they're asking for.
Welcome to the Business and Growth Podcast. I'm Kathryn Aragon, and I am your host. I'm chatting today with Brian Massey about AI, technology, and conversion optimization. So, Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Well, I am Brian Massey, and I'm the founder of Conversion Sciences, a conversion optimization agency. We started in 2007 before CRO even had its own three-letter acronym. The first number of years, kind of nurturing the industry, defining the disciplines, teaching the things that I was learning. And in 2011, we really went all in with A/B testing as a core part of what we do. So hopefully that's enough about me.
That's a good introduction. One of the things that impresses me about conversion sciences is that you guys helped establish CRO and what it is today. And tell us a little about the lab coat.
Oh, well, the lab coat is like when I first started, I really liked the science direction. My goal was to take online marketing, digital marketing out of the realm of best guess and experts, heuristics, best practices, and take it into the realm of data-driven decision making. So science seemed like an interesting way to go. And also it afforded me a certain shtick,
That's right.
a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek use of the physical things of science, lab equipment and things like that, applied to digital marketing. I kind of enjoyed that play on the concept. The lab coat is evidence of using science to your advantage. So there's a area of science called enclosed cognition, and it's the study of the systematic impact of clothing on the wearer and on those around them. And they studied the lab coat, and what they found that if you take a group of people and put them in a lab coat, they're going to score about 17% higher on a cognitive test than a similar group of people wearing street clothes.
Interesting.
So when I put the lab coat on, I actually think I'm smarter than I really am.
I need to get one.
Yeah. They've also studied uniforms, including the lab coat, and their effect on people around them. And they found that when you're wearing the lab coat, people tend to put more weight on your words. They tend to follow your instructions. They tend to believe what you're saying. So the lab coat's kind of a double win when I put it on.
It sure is.
Not only do I think I'm smarter than I am, but you think I'm smarter than I really
That's
am.
right. Okay. Well, today, interestingly, we're talking about another direction that science is taking us, and that's AI.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've never seen anything this disruptive ever. It hit my business hard. Those of us who are doing services in one way or another were definitely impacted. But I had a writing business and I did content and copy, and all of a sudden my clients could do it just as easily. And so overnight, from November through December, I lost more than half of my clients. Just boom. And that's a hard thing to deal with when you didn't even see it coming.
Yeah,
Because,
and you're very good.
oh,
So
thank you.
I would be surprised if the quality of what they were getting from the language models was as good as what you deliver. But cheaper is cheaper.
That's right. And many times that's the deciding factor. In fact, I took a few notes before we got on. And then this is really an interesting one. A lot of enterprise companies are not allowing their employees to use AI. So they're not getting whatever benefits might come from it. But despite that, a lot of companies are just letting go of people. It was one of them. Let me see. British Telecom, they're letting go of 10,000 employees with AI because they want to go with AI technology instead. So it's hitting all of us in one way or another. So what I'm curious about is how do you see it affecting conversion optimization?
Yeah. Well, if you take the conversion optimization pipeline apart, You can kind of look at the individual pieces. So the first thing we do is set up a digital laboratory. So these are the analytics, the back-end processes that are monitoring the way large groups of people are interacting with the website, providing heat map reports, doing session recordings. And that portion of it is the analysis of that data is becoming more and more something that can be automated. I'm a little bit surprised at how this analysis is kind of lagging. The language models will, though, be able to kind of do that matrix thing where you're looking at all the tumbling characters and seeing the things that are out there in the quote unquote reality of the matrix. Clustering of ideas, narrowing in on problem areas of the website, the things that Conversion Optimizer does very naturally. The place where I'm seeing the most movement right now, things that we will be using in 2025 are doing the heuristic analysis. So best practices and playbooks, looking at a website and the AI actually being able to go in at a pixel level and understand how the copy can be improved, how the layout can be improved, even how images are impacting the value proposition that you're presenting on that page. Are calls to action available, and are they the right calls to action? So the language models, I think in 2025, we'll have a number of options for language models that will be giving us that base level heuristic advice. The next phase is getting ideas that are more strategic. Those, I think in certain domains, we might find language generative AI assistants that are able to come up with those sorts of ideas. But for the foreseeable future, I think that is still going to be a human with experience solving business problems for a variety of different businesses. Developing experiments. So I think the language models will be very helpful for things like customer research, helping you compose surveys, helping you compose scenarios for online focus groups that you want to take through a process, either user testing videos or having a number of people looking at your content to give you an idea of which is going to communicate the best. And certainly the language models are already doing a good job of helping us analyze the results of those things. So if you have 50 people that are looking at a piece of content and another 50 people looking at another one, you have a lot of results in terms of the questions you're asking them about the mock-ups that you're providing typically. And being able to summarize those very quickly is certainly a thing that the current crop of generative AI does very well. The next thing is, if you're going to take something to an A/B test experiment, designing that test, so doing the coding. The generative models are very good at generating code. I was trained as a programmer, but I haven't done it day in, day out for many, many years.
At least not since starting an agency.
Yes. And I find it's very easy for me to generate utilities in Google Sheets, for instance, using code developed by the generative AIs. Evaluating test results is going to be the next place. So this kind of goes back to the analytics side of it. Not just, was the test a win? Was it inconclusive, or was it a save? But how did it affect other segments? Would a generative AI be able to go in and understand, like, oh, this was an inconclusive test, but Android visitors really did like it, and it was positive, and iPhone users did not. So kind of teasing out this post-test analysis. And then, of course, the reporting. Generative AI is going to be, I think we'll be doing almost all of that. Where before we might have developed a dashboard or go into Looker Studio or develop reports in Google Sheets. In our case, generative AI is going to be doing those graphs and reports for us. So there's lots of places that it can touch. I'm still optimistic that humans are going to be very important in CRO. But for marketers, I think the day-to-day taking care of things is going to free up some space on their usually very crowded desks.
Mhm.
It's going to let them take some hats off. And I'm hoping that that's going to free up marketers to start looking more at conversion optimization as a core part of every campaign they develop.
Okay. Yeah. So you're saying since we have to spend less time on the front end developing campaigns, we can spend more time on the back end optimizing them.
Yes,
Okay. It does sound like AI is impacting every stage of that process.
it's going to impact every stage of everything we do. I think.
Everything. Yeah. So right now, the first thing that popped into my mind was, I really want an example of this or that of what you just described. But then it dawned on me so much of this AI is already built into the software we use. How much of what you described to us is already working in like the tool is taking care of it? And how much of it do you do outside with another tool?
Yeah. So, from I think that's where we're going to find it. It's going to be in the specific tool. So, if you're using Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics, very soon you're going to have a co-pilot like thing in there that you can ask questions about. Currently, I'm using an external service to start playing with those capabilities.
Mhm.
Um, there are a number of efforts by the CRO community to put together this heuristic analysis. So in 2025, we're going to be seeing those come out. CRO benchmark is one of those that I've been a part of, and we'll be talking about that at the conference. Valentin or someone from his team will be explaining how that worked out. For some time, there's been Session Cam, for instance, had things like suffer scores. And this is, again, a heat mapping tool that gives us an idea of how far people are scrolling on a page and how many pages they're visiting and what parts of the page they're clicking on and what they're reading and things like that. They used AI to generate a suffer score. So you could zero in on those sessions that have been recorded where the visitor seems to be frustrated. So I think those capabilities will certainly expand and may even get to the point where the AI doesn't present us with heat maps and we don't have to watch session recordings, but it tells us based on what I saw, here are the changes that I would recommend.
I could see that happening already in like the tool Outreach IO. They had for the salespeople, they had the ability to read the tone of the person they're talking to. And
Sentiment.
so yes, so that sentiment analysis, and it shows up in real time for the salesperson and also support people. They have the
Mhm.
same ability, and they're told in real time what that other person is probably feeling and how to respond, which is to me fascinating that it can. And this is the good side. On the bad side, it feels like it's taking jobs, but on the other side, it's helping us do our jobs better and
Mhm.
faster, and that's impressive.
Yeah, the
We
mantra that has resonated with me is that our jobs are not going to be replaced by AI, but our jobs are going to be replaced by people using AI.
And that's a good point, which brings me to another thing I've been thinking about. I was on a call yesterday with Brian Poe, who works largely with large enterprise companies.
Hmm.
And I guess it hadn't occurred to me, but he's the one that told me that the enterprise companies, they're not allowing these tools in the organization, which makes me think they're going to fall behind in their ability to use the tools and to keep up.
Yeah, I think the large enterprises, they're accustomed to building silos. So I think what their approach is going to be is to generate their own internal AI that becomes a
Mm,
tool. So they can put guardrails on it, make sure that nobody's uploading confidential information, asking questions about confidential information and things like that.
okay.
So they have higher fiduciary duties or they take on higher fiduciary duties and governance issues that require them to have those internally. Flip side of that is they can have very finely tuned agents within the company that are very good at doing what they do in particular. So will they fall behind? I don't know, but I would be surprised how quickly things are moving if they did.
So what are some AI-driven tools or platforms that you think are game changers, especially for CRO?
That are game changers. So I think the generative language models are offering something that has been difficult for us in the past, and that is testing messaging. So, somebody in marketing will write the copy for a landing page or the copy that goes on to a website. And it will be, in their voice, probably a more business-like version of their voice. The question always has been, but what if you wrote it to appeal to the different ways people do research? There's a model that Brian and Jeffrey Eisenberg came up with called modes of persuasion. We've adopted that and recast it as modes of research, the way people are asking questions. So you have very spontaneous folks that are coming in and they are really just looking to solve a problem. They just want to take action. Think about this as somebody who's done a whole bunch of research. They've decided that they want to get a demo with your company or they want to buy your product. And so they're just coming in and they need to know, how do I go about doing that? So they're not clicking around, not doing a lot of research. Early in that process, though, they may come in a very methodical research mode where they're doing early research and they want to know what the issues are. They want to know what the processes are. They want to know what indices they should be comparing among alternatives. They want commentary on how their current process is not serving them well if they want to purchase a service. So being able to write copy in these kinds of different modes is hard for a human. It's hard for us. It's even hard for a professional copywriter to fundamentally change their voice, although they're going to be better at kind of picking up the voice of the brand. So the language models don't have this problem. You can tell them that you want to rewrite this copy in a methodical mode and do an experiment, typically an A/B test, to find out if there's a large percentage of your visitors that want to get information in that voice, in that mode. So it can become very persuasive because it's speaking to them where they are. And that's very exciting for me. And I think from a content standpoint, the challenge is going to be just how you communicate to the language models what it is you want. And we have some structures in place for that. But I think that's going to be very, very exciting. I mentioned CRO Benchmark. You can check it out at crobenchmark.com. A number of conversion optimization experts contributed to the list of best practices, the heuristics that this is checking for. And it's going to be a quick way for not only for you to evaluate your pages, but to compare yourself to similar companies and how they're scoring. So it'll give you a benchmark on how well you're doing.
Give us that URL again.
crobenchmark.com. There are I'm forgetting the name of Drake Sum's tool. SiteWiz?
Yes, SiteWiz, I believe. Hold on. Yes, it is SiteWiz, SiteWiz.
Yeah. So he is taking that heuristic combination and actually integrating some of the heat map reporting information to back up those claims. So the problem with heuristics is a lot of what seem like very good ideas, and we know from testing that only 1 in 3 of those are really going to improve things for any given audience. That is, if we're doing the work, the general rule of thumb is 1 in 6 or 1 in 7 tests will be successful, and the rest will be inconclusive or losers. Saves, I guess we would say. So he can help prioritize, or that tool's goal is to help prioritize those things based on the way people are interacting with it. And that's what we do. We have a long list of ideas that come from this heuristic and ideas from analytics. And then we look for proof for each of those to help us rank them. So that should be very interesting and really take the heuristic piece to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm. I use AI a lot for doing customer research, for writing drafts, for doing this kind of analysis. And to me, it feels like, I mean, I've not done a study, I've not like set a timer to see how much time I'm saving, but it feels like I'm shaving 2 days off my process, literally. Have you noticed that or seen that for yourself and your team?
Yes, and especially researching. So another area that the language models have been really helpful in is understanding our customers' clients.
Okay, yeah.
The example that I use is we have a client and we wanted to optimize the part of their website that sells truck scales, these giant scales that are installed at warehouses so that we know that the trucks are going out at legal weights, not at weights that are going to degrade the equipment, degrade the trucks, cause problems, cause accidents, cause failures, and cause them to lose whatever they're carrying. But I don't have any experience whatsoever, and nor does the team have any experience whatsoever in understanding what someone who's going to buy a truck scale is interested in. And the language models are fantastic at helping us understand what their titles are, what their top level demographics are, what their primary concerns are, what the purchase process is, who they're going to have to convince, because these are 70 to 100,000 or more dollar scales. So, and the ability to build out a very comprehensive persona or ideal customer profile is incredibly accelerated by the language models.
Yes.
Then you can take that to the client and test those conclusions to make sure that there's no hallucinations. But I suspect as more of these language models become very specialized, the hallucination rate will go down.
To me, it looks like it's getting better. I mean, I still have to argue with AI sometimes and say, no, that's not the question. Go here. But for the most part, I feel like over the last year, it's gotten much more accurate and it seems to understand what I'm looking for better. Have you seen that as well?
Yes. They are getting better. And there's a new generation of reasoning models that are going to be able to iterate for you and anticipate some of those questions.
So, next question. Do you think businesses are fully leveraging AI's potential, especially in CRO, or do you think they're mostly behind the curve?
Oh, behind the curve?
Maybe we're all behind the curve a little because we're all, I mean, we're all learning it.
I think that I don't know if you can claim anyone's behind the curve because things are moving so quickly. So,
Yeah.
My goal is to, well, I'm a scientist, so I'm experimenting and I'm taking many questions into AI. But there is a way of prompting. There's a structure that we are going to need to follow that's going to allow us to get the best results out of the language models. And I think there's going to be a lot of training to be done on that. So getting up those learning curves, I think, is going to be really, really important. But ultimately, I think the question is, how much of my job can I optimize with Gen AI so that I have more time to do the things that don't get done on my desk because I'm so busy? Do I have time to run an experiment when I'm just trying to get the campaign out before the promotion starts, sort of thing?
Right. Yes, exactly. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about how it helps us understand user behavior, but is it really just about asking questions about a specific type of person or role, or is there more to it than that?
That is a good question. So the magic of the generative AI and the language models is the natural language interface. But is plenty that you can do through the APIs. So I think the first phase was going to be these custom GPTs, custom chat GPTs, the agent functionality that is in Claude. OpenAI just came out with Observer, and these are agents that are designed to go out and interact with the digital world, so they can surf the web and solve problems for you. They're very early on. So I think that will be the next step. And I think there will be a lot of that going on, where I'm going to take a generative model, I'm going to do something custom, I'm going to provide documentation and background and description, and really give it as much knowledge as I can, and then let it go out and do things in the world for me.
Okay.
But I think for now, there's going to be a lot of this human natural language interface primarily.
Okay. So we've talked a lot about what's possible. Let's turn the coin and let's look at the challenges and misconceptions. What do you think is the biggest misconception about AI?
I think probably the biggest issue now is people are using it, and if they're not satisfied with the answers they get in their initial interactions, they kind of say, like, this isn't going to be what we want. It's going to, for just like working with a human being, it's going to take a little bit more tenacity in that. So if you approach these language models and you say, like, I need to convince this entity, this person, what I'm trying to accomplish, and make sure that they have what they need to, so that I can delegate something to them. If you were working with a coworker, you would take the time and be repetitive and check back and double check their work. And you're going to have to do that with the language models and the agents that you're working with as well. So I think giving up too soon, if you don't like the results that you're getting, is probably one of the bigger issues. And again, these prompt engineering structures are going to go a long way towards helping that. But if you're not that impressed by generative AI, then you're not trying hard enough, because
I definitely agree with that. Yes, it's like if you hired a virtual assistant and you didn't bother to train them at all, they would be just as bad. So why will we invest in humans and not in this tool that is supposed to support us in the same way?
Yeah.
But it does take correction, and it does. Sometimes I have to go back and forth. Like it said earlier, it's an argument. They think I mean this when I have to help them understand what I really mean. And it's that going back and forth, it trains them even better, I think.
It does.
Yeah.
They have pretty amazing memories right now.
Yes.
I think that there's still a sense that this is going to require programming to put together custom language models that have unique expertise. And that includes teaching them, putting on sufficient guardrails so that they're not saying things that violate regulations and things like that. When in fact the API is now English, or whatever language you're interfacing with. It's human language. So rather than using a REST API and writing some code, which has become very easy with the language models, you're assembling your own smart applications using language modeling. So I think marketers and business owners that are like, it's not something I do, might be selling themselves short, might be fall behind, rather than saying, like, oh, here's a programming model that I can use, a syntax I understand, and I'm going to dive in.
Now, you keep talking about the prompt structure. Could you quickly outline that for us?
Actually, it is I'm thinking primarily some work by Christopher Penn that I've been following. He has a structure, and I'm going to struggle to regurgitate it, but there are some pieces of it that you may not intuitively think of, like, oh, okay, I've got these results. Now I'm going to provide feedback. And then I'm going to ask the language model to summarize. There are steps in there that says, explain to me why you came up with this or how you came up with this. So you begin to understand what the underlying principles that it is using to make recommendations for copy or make recommendations for changes to a page. It's a very important step and something I've seen in the tools that some of them do not do as good a job of recommend a new headline, but it won't say why it chose those particular things. So you want to build that step in and say, tell me what you were thinking when you made these recommendations.
That's very good. I've done it because I didn't understand. I mean, it was so clear to me they went a different direction than I went, but I didn't think about doing that on a regular basis. And I could see how that would enrich the results and help you communicate better with your AI tool.
Okay.
Mine is a she, by the way. I don't know if they talk to you in kind of a different tone than they do to me, but my chat GPT is definitely a feminine energy, and
Oh, really?
perplexity, no, that's a man. It's so clear they have personalities. I love that. So now I know you've talked about people not using it enough. In my world, and a lot of the people I interact with on a daily basis, they use it too much. It's like they will put in their prompt, write this for me, and then they don't even edit. They just use it as is. And to me, that is a huge mistake. Have you seen that on any level?
Um, well, I don't think I've ever done that. Well, I think it depends. So if you are doing communication to the market, that's one thing. Sometimes it is very helpful and straightforward to take a summary if it's summarizing client commentary or something like that. But even these new tools like the language models that summarize meetings that are built into Zoom or Fathom or Otter.ai get it very wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So we're not at a point where we can just take that summary and send it to the customer and expect them to extract the proper action items and
Yeah, there was I had ChatGPT help me develop my content strategy. And I told it these are the topics that I want to talk about, and we discussed and came up with a strategy. And then I'll go in and I'm just drawing a blank in the morning. It's time for my LinkedIn post. I don't know what I want to say. So I go in and she gives me a prompt, and you'll hear me say she because that's what she is. And she'll give me, I'll say, yes, that's a good topic. Go ahead and write me a post. But it'll be identical to a post you wrote last week. And so it's like, again, they also get into these little ruts. What I've discovered is when you're doing the creative side, which is more where I work, you can't do that. You've got to go in with an idea. So not just write me a LinkedIn post, but I'm thinking about this for my LinkedIn post today. And I write something. I don't worry about how good it is because she is going to rewrite it for me, whether I want her to or not. And many times, like you said earlier, it cleans it up. It takes all my jumbled ideas and refines them. But you nail it when she says, oh, this is a fantastic post, or, ooh, this is very good. Because you really do get some feedback on what you're doing and then those suggestions for improvement. And I do appreciate that. I don't always use that improvement because I meant what I said, or my voice is what it is. Don't try to correct that bit of my voice. But it's so helpful. I think I'm getting dependent on having that level of feedback on everything I do. Because AI is really, once it becomes part of your workflow, it's really a big part of your workflow.
Yeah, and we'll, in short order, be able to train these custom agents to be snarky, add a little bit of humor,
Yeah.
That can get us even closer to, what our natural voice is,
Right.
especially if they're being trained on our past writings.
The key there is that we've been writing well enough that it picks up on the right voice. Because I think I've done this for you and for me, write in the voice of, and then it's like, oh, wow, that's not good. We need to fix my voice. So, yeah, but it's really fun. I've had a really good time playing with these tools because I get so much feedback. It opens ideas for me. And so rather than relying on it to like be my brain, by using my brain to integrate with it and to get feedback, it is like having another employee in the house who is really smart, knows a lot of trivia, and can help me solve hard problems. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think we are we could ever get to the point that we're over relying on it? As I said, it's really a big part of my workflow.
Yes, yes, I think that we could over rely on it, but um, the distinction for me is what side do you want to err on? Do you want to err on under relying on it or over relying on it? And what would be the downside of over relying on it? That we fire everybody in the company except for a couple of agents. What would over relying on it look
That's a
like?
very good question.
I
Because
think in
we
the
always,
content world, having a lot more mundane content
yeah.
is going to be there's going to be certainly an issue.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of that content is for search, and search is being transformed by the agents as well. So is it really going to be about quantity of content that has the right keywords anymore, or is it going to be a more discerning language model that gets what the BS is and what the true brand voice, unique approaches, new
Knowledge.
research, and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's less about us worrying this is changing the way we do things, therefore we must be doing things wrong, to more of everything's changing. It probably won't look like it does now, just like today doesn't look like it did in the 80s because we weren't digital back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this transformation though is the challenging part when we're neither here nor there and we don't know what it's going to look like. We just feel the loss of what things used to feel like.
Yeah. And, there will be some, right now there's lots of tools. It's difficult to grade them without playing with them, but there will be the Shopify of agents in certain areas that are wildly popular, do a fantastic job, and solve problems reliably. So those will come online. We can't really wait for that because things are moving so quickly. So
True.
when you start taking down some of the productivity gains, making sure that we're using the time we're saving in smart ways. And of course, I'm biased, but I think you should be spending that on experimenting. And realizing there's certain parts of our job that we're just barely getting done, that the language models are going to add order of magnitude in terms of quality and correctness.
So, Brian, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I think you've played with this, I know, for at least a decade. You were into AI when it first came online. And it's great to get those insights from a scientist. So, thank you for that. Now, you and I have kind of a special project going on. Do you want to introduce that to everybody?
You mean Conversion Mind or Conversion Live?
Ooh. Let's start with Conversion Live.
Yeah. So 2024 definitely felt like the last year that we could wait and see. Let's play with some things. There's some obvious things that we can use to integrate generative AI into the processes that we're doing. rather than cranking out 25 of our own headlines, we can crank out 5 of our own and then ask, the language model what it thinks. And 2025 feels like the year that we've got to actually integrate these things into our workflows and start asking questions. How can we start to use some of these custom agents? For instance, one of the things, Conversion Live is our attempt to answer that. So we said, who are the smartest people we can bring together, not just in the AI world, but in all of the things that are changing in conversion optimization right now? Who are the smartest minds we can bring in and tell us not what the future is, but what we're going to be doing in 2025 that's going to fundamentally change the way we do conversion optimization and digital marketing in general. So that's what we did, and reached out to all of the people that we've come to know over the years, presenting and writing blog posts and things has been a part of the way we go to market, because we've always had to kind of create this industry. It feels a little bit like we're recreating it now. So we brought them together. We're going to listen to what they have to say at Conversion Live, the virtual conference. And by the time we're done, we're going to know exactly what tools we should be getting up the learning curve on Monday afterwards, and get an idea of where the biggest wins are in terms of saving time, increasing quality, and allowing us to bring new skills onto our plates. Conversion optimization is it's a pretty steep learning curve. So being able to have generative AI to help us do that is going to be a big win. And where are tools being improved by that? So we want to answer those questions. And by the time we're done, we should have an amazing library of presentations and commentary that we'll be able to put into our own custom AI, which we're calling Conversion Mind. And so instead of looking through a list of presentations and watching the presentation, you can start asking specific questions about specific things you're interested in and have it take you to that part of the presentation, or download that particular set of slides. So it's a way of interacting through natural language with the experts that have come and shared their knowledge with us.
I think it's so exciting. But it really starts with people coming to the event. We've got nearly 15 speakers lined up so far, experts in CRO, in growth marketing, in all kinds of things related to this. I will say, though, many of us, even the leaders, are struggling with coming to an event and speaking about AI as if they have it figured out, because nobody really feels like we've got it figured out. So we're also going to build in a few workshops where everyone who participates gets to go and just discuss together. That maybe no expert teaching, but we all sharing our ideas and helping one another understand or answering questions together, and then coming back to the large group and sharing what we've learned. So this is a really unique opportunity, not only to learn more about CRO and shorten that learning curve, but also just share your questions and get some interaction going. Meet with other people who are doing really cool things. So you can go and get your ticket at conversionsciences.com/conversion-live.
You can also use conversionlive.com.
That's the easy way. So, yes, but definitely go and check it out, and go ahead and buy that early bird ticket while you can, because this is going to be a really unique experience, I think. Brian,
It will be a ride.
It will be a ride. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I think we've covered everything that I was interested in talking about.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been a pleasure. You're quite a good host.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, until the next time.